Yo, one person in already. Fantastic. That'll do. Oh, you've gone. Yes. No one here. I'm just sat here on my own, babbling away like a complete mentalist. Fantastic. Nothing wrong with that. You know. Oh, no, there's one. Yeah. Who are these fucking people? Who are these absolute weirdos who come in and then fucking leave again? What were you expecting? Now, oh, there's 4 people now. Fucking hell. Fuck me. Calm down. Someone who talks eventually. Yo, tell it. I didn't say anything about weird. Actually, no, I was talking about myself because I started the show and there was one person in here, and then they left, and so for 30 seconds I was in here on my own. I was literally, it was like this. It was literally I was GB News. And I had literally, so I was just sat here, technically, like a mentalist, just talking to myself. You know. Someone. Oh, see now I didn't. How have I been? I've been all right, mate. I've been all right. You know, I'm still obviously in Faversham, but I'm going to a place, checking out a place on Wednesday that I've got some good feelings about. And if that all goes well, hi Chris, then hopefully like this. Where was I formerly? Well, I was in Market Harborough. You know, have you not noticed that I'm not? I'm in a garage. Do you not keep up with the? Well, I mean, if the sound's odd, I didn't move. Moving suggests that there was some sort of, you know, that I had some sort of say in it. Yeah. That there was some, you know, there was I sort of like had, mate. It was my decision, you know. I didn't so much move as I was evicted. I don't know if that counts as moving. It's like extreme. Okay, if it's cutting in now, I honestly don't know why that was, what's causing that. I mean, I'm on my phone. Seems to be. Okay, it's still working for me. It seems to be working for other people. It seems that I don't know what it is. Apparently, it's just like I can't seem to do anything. Seems no matter how. Last time it was the bloody. It was the OBS software that wouldn't fucking work. It was just pissing me about, you know. Now apparently it's. and it's fucking everything else. It's not everybody. It's just some people. Yo. Such is life. No, it's not actually. It's not. Life is. There is no correlate. There is no correlation or metaphor between life and my. And how infuriatingly impossible it is for me to be able to get a fucking live stream. Well, it's not. You say it's. Well, I mean, it doesn't seem to be happening with everyone. I mean, I don't know what. I mean, like I said, this is on my phone, so I can't. It's not like my mic's plugged in. I'm not on. I'm not on. I'm not going through any software program or anything. This is just. So I can't do anything about this. Whatever this is like at the moment, this is what it's like. Yeah. It was literally, I was GB News. Okay, sounds okay on my computer. Oh yeah, it is. It is cutting out. Yeah. Fuck. Great. Now I've been disconnected. Right, okay. No, and that's not me. Sorry, that's. So it's done this before. It's done this before when it's like I've recorded video and the mic's just cut in and out, and then I've recorded it again, and then on another day it will work fine, and I can never. It's still going apparently. So. Yeah, I know. I know what you. I know what. I mean, I can't do anything about it. Like I said, I can't do anything about. It's just this is the microphone on the. I don't know if there's. Does that help? I don't know. If it carries on, I'm just gonna have to. I'm gonna have to end it. No, because. Hey, Darth. We're having sound issues at the moment. What we need to do is work out periodically when the sound's working and when it isn't. Right, well, again, like I said, there's nothing I can do. If it's unwatchable, or so unwatchable, unlistenable, then I'll just end it because I can't really do it. You know, I don't want to. I just felt like a live stream because I. It's not well. It's just the mic. My mic's knackered apparently. You know, like I said, it's. I can't live stream on Facebook at the moment because I'm currently on a 30. I'm on my second 30-day suspension. In the space of. I was suspended for 30 days, and then I had 4 days. Then I had 4 days not suspended, and now I'm suspended again. I mean, I don't know. It's not gonna. I can't see. You know, like I said, there's nothing. I don't think there's anything I can do. Um, no, it wasn't even wishing death on Stephen Crowder. Reassuringly, guys, I can't do anything about. You know, you know, like I said, I can't do anything about the audio. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't just wish death upon Stephen Crowder. I was very graphic and specific as the type of death I wanted him to have. You know. Um, well, no. To be fair to Facebook, that's true of all. But that's true of YouTube and Twitter. None of them have that. This is what the problem. This is what happens when you have when you know rely on algorithm computer programs and algorithms to flag content. Is that they you know they don't know how to you know I don't know I I'm probably you know it probably is possible. I'm probably completely wrong here, but as far as I'm aware, you can't you know a computer program is not able to detect sarcasm. Although to be fair, I would have to say that it is questionable how sarcastic my posts wishing death upon Stephen Crowder were. You know. Although, in all fairness to the police, you know, that's that's their own. You know, there are certain jobs where you know you can't. Where it's, you know, why do I hate Crowder so much? Because he's a horrible, malicious, bigoted, hateful, rancid cunt. And not just that, but he thinks that's funny. He thinks being a malicious, vile, rancid, hateful cunt is in some way funny. There's no connection for the USB, mate. Darth, this is on my phone. There's no. You know, the mic. This is my phone mic being shit. You know, so I can't. Like I said, this is why there's nothing I can do. If I was using my webcam or my USB, it would be. What's the worst thing he's done? He's an AIDS denialist. He made a video where he got a friend of his to lean on his neck to prove that George Floyd could not have been killed by Derek Chauvin. You know, he's rampantly homophobic. He's been, you know, he's been against. He's rampantly transphobic. You know, he's a climate change denier. When it suits him, he's sometimes anti-Semitic. he's often Islamophobic. But I would definitely put the age denialism stuff right up there. Yeah. Why don't you tell me what the best thing he's done is? Yeah. Why don't you tell me some good things he's done? Yeah. I'd like to hear that. I'd be open to that. You know, I'm sure there must be some. The thing is, I remember seeing some clips of him doing actual stand up gigs, and I mean he's not a bad stand up comedian. He's got he's got he's got a lot of qualities as a but he chooses to. It's the way he chooses to use it. I can't. No one. Rubin is the fucking. Calling Rubin. Like I've said, Rubin is to comedy what polio is to good legs. The guy behind you. The counter, apropos of nothing, his theories about the Jews. Yeah, it's kind of worrying how that's when someone's got It's always worrying when someone is so prejudiced and bigoted that they have to spontaneously just tell complete strangers. You know, that's always What were his theories about the Jews? Out of curiosity. Do you remember? Do you remember what they were? Apparently not. Israel controls the UK media. That's quite amusing. It's always funny how this is what it's always funny, isn't it? How because if you talk to if you were to believe hardcore Zionists, they would tell you about how incredibly anti-Israel the fucking the the BBC is and stuff like that. This is the thing. To him, like to him, they're probably not radicalized. That's the thing. but like he probably used to have, the guy probably used to have friends who he used to, he probably used to be like, he used to share this stuff with, and they got bored and they had to keep coming up with excuses and reasons why they didn't want to fucking talk to him. Um, so now he just has to tell complete strangers. And was it his bookshop? Was it, was it his bookshop? I'm sure if it wasn't, I'm sure his employers would love to know. Because, let's be honest, you were probably not the first. You're not the first and only person he fucking decided to share these theories with. Oh, so it was his bookshop. Oh, okay. In that case, I would just. In that case, I would just walk away and. Well, he's the kind of person. It's like that Stuart Lee joke when he gets in a taxi and the guy says, these days if you say you're English, you get arrested and thrown in jail. Or like when he got in a taxi and the guy said, "I think all homosexuals should be killed." He's that guy. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't really encounter these people because, I mean, it's kind of like, I mean, that's what YouTube is. YouTube, you should tell me to get a YouTube channel. Yeah. But I mean, that's sort of like what YouTube is. YouTube is just, people, in a way. But I've made 2 videos today and uploaded them, but they're on my Patreon, and only my patrons on Patreon can see them. So if you want to, one of them, is called "Laughing My Arse Off at Zoo Files," and the other one is called "Preemptively Responding to Dave Rubin's second book." Yeah. So if you want to go watch those videos, you can. You have to sign up to my Patreon. Yeah. It's good content. Yeah. Well, it's one. Well, I mean, if you like all of the stuff that's on there, if you give $1 a month, you can give $1. You can give $1 a month, and it will be. Yeah. Nobody's ever talking about you. Nobody ever will. Yeah. I mean, Moore's claiming that now just to make you feel better, but he wasn't. I've never done a single live stream where anybody has mentioned you in passing before you've come in here. Even after you come in, nobody mentions you. Unless Ron's doing his impression of atheism is unstoppable. Oh, by the way, that video. Um, I managed to get hold of a copy of that video of that live stream I did. At that time, I did a live stream, and atheism is unstoppable came in and started calling me a faggot and demanding to know where I lived. I was really pissed off with me. For literally no reason whatsoever. I know my audio is working. I know. I can't do anything about it, Ron. We know the audio is wonky. Other people have noticed. There's nothing I can do about it, mate. I'm sorry. You can, you know. Well, no, I didn't need to wind. I didn't need to wind him the fuck up because he was wound up already. He came into the room wound up. Basically, what happened was there were some people in the room who asked me what did I think of atheism is unstoppable, and what I literally said was, I don't watch his videos. It's not my cup of tea. That's it. I said nothing more than that. Then these people who then went on Twitter, obviously, and linked my live stream and said, this guy's talking shit about you, which I wasn't. And then he comes in. Comes into my room and starts calling me calling me a homo, and like then demanding to know. No, he started demanding, he started demanding to know where I live. What is my favourite book? If we're talking fiction, and I don't read a lot of fiction, it's Scum by not Scum, Filth by Irving Welsh. Yeah, and he came in and he demanded to know where I lived. And not only did I give him my full address, I also gave him a link to Google Maps. Showing exactly where it was, so he could pop round. Yeah, okay. If that makes you feel better, if that's what I could be good. And then because he for some reason he obviously expected me to go no, be offended by that, and yeah, those are the isn't that aren't most manifestos written by nuts? I mean, political manifestos written by parties, and then anyone else who's ever written a manifesto who isn't in a political party is a nutter. I don't think. I think that should be one of the main. I think that should be part of gun control. There should be a law. It's like if you've ever written a manifesto, you cannot have a gun, because every mass shooting, eventually it's only a matter of time what that they at some point have written a fucking manifesto. Yeah, but that was a political manifesto, like I said. I'm talking about rogue nutters who are not connected, who write, who are not connected to reality or any sort of like ideology or party. Like they just decide to write to splurge their fucking shitting philosophy and practice. I would say that shitting. Well, that sounds like a laugh, And did he ever finish it? And let's be fair. I don't think shitting is not a philosophy. I mean, it's not even a practice, really. I wouldn't even call it a practice. It's a practice suggests something that is like it's like something you choose. It does come, writing a manifesto, because that's my point. That's why people who write manifestos shouldn't be allowed guns, because they're quite clearly. I'm not saying everyone who's written a manifesto is going to fucking kill a load of people. I'm just saying that almost everyone who goes and kills a load of people ends up has written a manifesto. You think he OD'd from heroin? Oh no! What a shame. That's ironic, because heroin makes you constipated. So by being a heroin addict, he would not have been able to actually take part in the philosophy or the practice of shitting on account of the fact that he's on heroin. Have I read Elliot Rodgers? Okay, Elliot Rodgers, it wasn't even a manifesto. I mean, it was called My Life, and it was 14 pages long. For fuck's sake. There are fucking toddlers who could write more than 14 pages about their life fucking story. His fucking his manifesto. I could read that. I one good shit. Now I think of it, half my graduating class was over there. Half your class? Really? You could write the last bowel movement, and you could and apparently it would be scripts for YouTube videos that have got fucking more than 14 pages. Well, I mean, I don't mean the whole incel thing. I mean, I've, I don't know what I would specifically. I will say this. I mean, incels fucking there, there aren't many people. I mean, I have gone to and I have spent my time dealing with some truly abhorrent people, but reading an incel forum was one of the. There's only two occasions when I've been so disgusted by what I was reading that I had to stop. And one of them was when I was reading the blogs on Roosh V's website, and the other time was when I was reading the posts on an incel forum. I fucking and I just came away thinking, and I came away with the opinion of I fucking hate these people. There is nothing. There is no redeemable quality. They are the epitome and embodiment of every fucking thing that is wrong. With that, with with male mentality. They are so entitled and so fucking full of self-loathing and self-pity and take no responsibility. And I just want to beat them round the fucking head with an iron bar for half an hour. I wouldn't say anything. I mean, there's nothing. I think by the time you've got to a point where you are an incel, you are almost beyond fucking help. Like, there are lots of people out there who don't get laid, and and who and there are lots of people who don't get laid, and it might bother them and upset and annoy them, but it takes a special kind of fucking mindset for someone to make their inability to get laid a fucking the defining characteristic of their personality. Well, no, the term incel, interestingly enough, the term incel was invented by a woman. And she actually came up with it, and it was never meant to be. And it was never meant to be a term that was, that was about that was meant to be an idea, it was never meant to be something that people identified with in that way. It was meant to be just, it was meant to be just, if you are you someone, who are you someone who doesn't get laid or doesn't have a lot of sex, and you struggle with that, and it was her attempt to sort of create a community where people could help each other. But as is normally the way, it got co-opted by by angry, militant, hateful pricks who took it over. There's actually an article. Hold on, I'll see if I can find it. There's actually an article about this somewhere online. I was looking at it a couple of weeks ago. I don't know. An incel wouldn't even go to the gym. They're they've just got no. They just expect. They just think they are entitled to. And you know, now. Um, Here we are. The term incel was coined by a woman known only as Alana in the 1990s when she created a website to discuss her sexual inactivity. It's like the opposite of OnlyFans. She she hoped that Alana's involuntary celibate project would become a resource for others like her, supposedly involuntarily celibate people who needed guidance and support. Of course, the incel scene has moved on radically since then, and Alana has distanced herself from its current incarnation. One that is dominated by men who feel entitled to sex and resent women for not giving it to them. minority, you do find femcells in small numbers on most incel forums, but unsurprisingly, they struggle to have their motivations and problems heard in these spaces. In the rules of the now banned subreddit r/incels, an admin had laid out the opinion of femcells held by the 40,000 person community. Quote, those who continuously claim that there are as many female incels in the same situation as male incels will receive a warning and then a ban. So what motivates women to join a movement that produced the likes of Elliot Rodger and Minassian? That's Alex Minassian. He's the Canadian guy who drove who committed vehicular homicide on a load of people. Rachel, a 19-year-old from the US, was 15 when she first came across the term incel online and was struck by how precisely it described her situation. Quote, I've never had sex or had a relationship due to a hormonal condition that has caused me to develop a very atypical appearance. The term incel fits me perfectly. Despite ticking the same boxes as male incels, the community she is now part of doesn't offer her the support she wants. Most males don't acknowledge the fact that females can be incels, and that makes it extremely hard for me to cope. I'm being rejected by both society and people who share the same struggles as me. And you would think, wouldn't you, that considering one of the things incels always say is that, you know, women need to lower their standards in order to include them. You think you've got women in your community, right, who you are rejecting. You would think, wouldn't you? Could I say they have support? I don't know. I mean, it's like if it bothers you that much, you know, it's like you know, do you know what they would have a lot more sympathy. You know, they would certainly, you know, people would be a lot more sympathetic to them if they didn't behave and act in the way that they did. You know, you know, most people, you know, I'm pretty sure most people can relate to, or you know, identify with, you know, the struggle sometimes of getting laid. You know, but not all of us sit there and fucking, you know, we sit there and say, well, this is the fucking, you know, card you, this is the hand you were dealt in life, you know, maybe, you know, but their mentality, the mentality they have is one that, you know, it doesn't matter what I look like, and it doesn't matter what I, I should be entitled to this. There should be redistribution. You know, it should be like, you know, there should be fair, you know, sharing, like, you know, people should. I don't know what they expect to happen. I don't know what you know what they want. The idea that any woman can get laid if she wants to is common on incel sites. The theory behind this is that even supposedly unattractive girls can find sexual partners if they make themselves available to anyone who's willing to sleep with them, no matter how those men look or behave. I know, lol. I know. You're not the first. You know, I can't do anything about it, mate. And yet Rachel continues to interact with these male incels. Why? She gets the feeling few women would relate to her experience as a female incel, leaving her no one to relate to outside of this community. It takes great measures for a female to become an incel. She tells me, a female incel has to be extremely ugly or demented to be rejected by all males. I mostly interact with male incels because of the lack of women in the same situation, and also in the slight hope that I'll be able to find a partner, as normal chads would never even consider being with me. You know, But that's the problem. Turning tree is they don't scrape the bottom of the barrel. Is that they they're not willing. This is the hypocrisy of them. Is they're not willing to fucking they sit there and say women should lower their standards, and yet at the same time they reject women. I mean, you would think if you're an incel, the fucking your best shot is if you're in a community of incels and a woman joins in. You'd think there would be but the truth is they think that's they're not willing to Chad and Stacey are the is the is the term used to describe men and women who can get like. But again, yes, I mean, well, I mean, if anyone who was here when I did that did that live stream, when I watched that documentary by about Joseph 8276, he was a classic example. Here's a guy who was like, he's a guy who was like saying, girls wouldn't go out with me because they just want arseholes, and they used to say I'm fat and it shouldn't matter what I look like. Whilst at the same time he would literally say, I don't want to go out with a woman who's unattractive. I don't want a woman who's and I mean the cognitive dissonance, I'm not bloody surprised. Yeah. But I mean, it seems from what I've, from what I get, from what I can gather, it seems that the it seems that the female members of these incel communities were actually people who joined it, and I've read stories about incels who have actually got laid or started going out with someone, and they talk about how they were when they sort of told everyone in the community that they now had a partner. They were fucking they were ostracized from it. I mean that's fucking. I mean that's demented. It wasn't like good for you, man. Yeah, Chris Chan, Chris Chan didn't get laid, mate. He raped his mother, and even she was, even she's 8 year old and got dementia. Yeah, that's a bad example. Dude, you must have been keeping up with the news. Gave the, I don't think it's fair to blame these people. Clearly existed before Elliot Rodger. Elliot Rodger just brought it because the term incel wasn't really around. Then I'm sure some of them do have social problems, but I mean, that's not my problem, mate. You know what I mean? There's only so there's only so much I can do. You could say that about anybody. Someone has problems and that's not my fucking. That is not for me to fucking that is not for me to fucking waste my time on. I'm not a psychologist, you know. Yeah. Lots of us have social problems, mate, and lots of there's lots of us who have psychological or social or or mental problems, you know. But we don't sit there and fucking, we don't sit there and go, oh, you know, it's that guy in Plymouth. That guy who recently went and shot up, you know, shot those people in Plymouth. You know, I mean, he was 23 years old, and if you watch any of the clips from his videos, you know, you wouldn't believe that he was only 23. He talked as if like his life was over. He's like, you know, like nothing changed. You know, it's like you know, I feel like there's no. You're 23, motherfucker. I'm 40. I'm 41. I'm 42 in about you know, in about you know, I'm a couple of months away from being 42, and I've got more fucking you know I talk you know with more fucking hope and optimism, you know, than this fucking geezer did. You know. Yeah, there was the TFL. Yeah, True Force Loneliness. Yeah, I remember them. You know. You know, I mean, a lot of it's due. I mean, the thing is, a lot of it's due. I've always said that. You know, if you you know, if you want my opinion, you know, I've always said that a lot of it. You know, a lot of the key to you know being successful with you know, a lot of the key to being successful is just confidence. It's just people who are you know people who are comfortable in their own skin. You know, someone who's confident. You know, regardless of how they look, they don't give a shit. Like, this is how I look. I don't give a fuck. You know, they've got, you know, they still does, you know, and you've got every one of us knows. Every one of us knows, you know, some pork scratching looking motherfucker who looks like a fucking, who looks like a piece of fucking, you know, burnt bacon that's been welded to a fucking bed, to a fucking welder's bench, and yet he's got some, and yet he just has fit girlfriend after fit girlfriend, and you're like, how does that motherfucker do it? Because in his mind, he doesn't give a shit. You know, he doesn't give a fuck. You know, he just, you know, he walks in and thinks, I don't give a fuck. You know, and the same generally, I think, and the same to an extent is true. I think you know the other way around. You know, I think when you're talking to a woman, you know, who might not be the most attractive, but she's not, you know, she's not one of those women who's fucking, you know, always like you know making a point of bringing up something like you know, like there's nothing worse. You know, there's nothing worse than someone who's like you know who looks perfectly fine, who look you know who is you know reasonably attractive, who keeps putting themselves down and keeps being self-deprecating in a very sort of unironic way. It's like that kid at school who used to get an A plus in every exam and would always talk about how I don't think I did, you know, and you're like, fuck off, you pass everything, you know. Stop acting insecure or worried about it, you know. You know, I mean, when I'm, you know, whenever I've used dating sites, right? If ever, you know, whenever I've used dating sites, if ever I go past a woman who says like, it says like, just so you know, I'm a big girl. Right? You've got a problem with that? Fucking move on. But I'm a big woman, and you have to learn to deal with that. I'll generally click like on that because I'm like, fair play to you, love. Right? Yeah, good for you. Right? I'll give you a, I'll swipe right on, I'll swipe right on that fucker. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of like doing. It's like you know, doing stand up. You know, it's like you know, I used to. I've always compared going out. You know, trying to you know, trying to go out and like you know, pull people. You know, trying to go out on the pull is like stand up. It's like the comedians who Yeah, the comedians who walk on stage who know they're funny, and and have and are completely confident, that radiates with them. You know that 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 the audience can sense that. And I mean, I'm not the most look. I'm not the most attractive motherfucker on earth. I do pretty good for. I do pretty good for for myself. And it's not because I'm fucking handsome. Yeah, yeah. Because I'm not. I'm alright. Yeah. Yeah, no, no, but Dave Rubin is no, but Dave Rubin doesn't do stand up, mate. Dave Rubin does stand up in gigs, at gigs where his audience, he knows his audience. He doesn't actually even do that well. If you watch some of the gigs he's done in front of an audience that is literally his fans, right? The audience is full of people who are subscribers to his channel. He doesn't even do that well in front of them. You know, if he had to go in front of an audience of people who didn't know him, right? No, like I said, if you're a bad comedian, right, get better. Figure out why. Figure out what you're good at. Just because you're not good looking doesn't mean you can't be charming or interesting or funny. How many matches? I don't know. I don't count. You know. It's like women who are Radiohead fans. I know lots of women who are Radiohead fans who think Tom York is the sexiest man on the planet, and he clearly isn't. You know, but he's got other things going for him. Maybe if we lived, maybe it would help. I mean, I think maybe if we lived in a society where we didn't put so much importance or emphasis on how important it is to get laid. I mean, that's a very kind of like that doesn't help. You know, where we there's this perpetuated we perpetuate this idea among about men about this men who men who put it about men who like shag as many women as they fucking can. And, they're somehow these guys are somehow in some way more superior to men who have had sex with less people. There's a good start. I can compare celebrities used to be ordinary people too. Yeah, wealth and status does come into it, but it's not always that. You know. I mean, I don't know what you want me to say, Turning Tree. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I can't solve these guys' problems. All I do know is this: what they're doing. I can't solve every incel's problem, but what I do know is this: the way incels have chosen to go about it is wrong, and it's not helping them, and it's a detriment to them. because it turns them into people who want to go out and kill people. You know, it turns them into people who fucking idolize these fuckers like people like Elliot Roger and you know Alex, you know, you know, all these other fucking. You know, it's now happened. You know, it's now a trend. It's now becoming a trend now. You know, it's not like it's not like it was just a one-off fucking thing. It's now become a trend. I don't. There's nothing I can do. You know, what do you know? If you've got an if you've got a solution, share it with them. I don't fucking know. What I do know is that what they do, you know, the way they go about it's like that scene in fucking what's his name, in American History X, where you know the guy, the teacher says to you know says to Edward Norton, he says, "Has anything you've done made your life better?" Yeah. He couldn't stand to kiss his grandmother because he knew she had sex and he had. That is weird. Well, I think it makes. I don't know. I mean, it, I don't know whether it makes it worse or better, mate. To be honest, I don't think you know. I don't think it matters. I mean, whatever the answer is, porn is as accessible as it you know as it is, and that's not going to change. I don't think the accessibility of porn. You know, even if that was the case, I don't think you know it would be fair to say, right, well, let's make porn harder to access because I think you know I think you know sex is a you know it's in everything. It's in advertising, it's in music videos, you know, it's in you know it's in you know it's in just general you know it's in magazines, you know, it's in you know it's everywhere. It's in newspapers. It's everywhere. You know. Well, not just Grandpa. I mean, to be fair, he said she had sex more. You know, and he hasn't. You know, she might have blown loads of people. She probably did. You know, I remember my nan always talking about the time. You know, my nan used to talk about how great the war, how great the war. You know, it was during the war with all the fucking with all these American sailors coming over. You know, my mum's birth certificate under father it says some soldiers. No, Trigger's dad died a few years before he was born. Oh. This is a great one. This was a guy on Twitter recently. This guy posted, "Tell me, okay, you tell me, why do you think young men choose to be incels?" Right, think about that for a second. Choose to be incels. Like they, by sheer definition, you can't choose You can't choose to be a fucking incel, can you? It wouldn't be involuntary. It wouldn't be involuntary then, would it? Yes, that's the point. Yeah. That would be a Volcel, and they do exist as well. Go through some posts on the incel.is forum. Ethnic whore saved Chad's life 400 years ago. Brutal Pocahontas pill. No, not the Disney character. She was actually a real person who existed. Isn't it heartwarming that ethnic whores were whoring for Chad even 400 years ago and betraying their own cultures to sleep with powerful invaders? I also wonder if she would have saved his life if he was a fat, ugly local instead of an exotic white from a technologically advanced culture. They're getting pissed off about something that happened 400 years ago. I mean, someone got laid. A geezer got laid 400 years ago, and they're getting fucked off about it. Women don't kill as a result of sexual rejection. Instead, they sexually disqualify men via the Me Too movement and false rape accusations. Most women would starve to death if they never went on foodie dates. And that's amazing. I'm pretty sure. They wouldn't. You well, that's the thing. But none of these geezers have been fucking. Well, no, women. Women. That's the difference between men and women. Women, women get rejected, and they eat a lot of ice cream and get fat and cry a lot, and sit on the stairs at parties you know, pissed up their brains on gin with mascara running down their face. Men wake up one day and go, I want to kill everybody. Everybody in the world. If I ever found out that my woman has a daughter, I'll make sure she aborts it. I don't want a daughter to grow up to be a slut. Well, surely that's on you, isn't it? Imagine that. Imagine. I mean, it's a level that's almost that's beyond fucking. It's beyond parody. You know. You had this with but it's quite funny. Like when you see like something like that guy in Plymouth. Like I'm sat there going, okay, what's Paul Joseph Watson going to say about this? And of course he sits there and he makes the whole argument about he turns the whole argument into whether this guy should be defined as a terrorist or not, and saying people only want to define him as a terrorist because he's white. I'm like, yeah, that's the problem with the world, isn't it, Paul? Is that only white people get called terrorists. But well done. That's the best you could do, wasn't it? That's the closest you could get to actually, what happened in Plymouth. Well, I mean, there was a shooting. There was a mass shooting in Plymouth about 2 weeks ago. Yeah, his audience he's got a lot of incel followers, but he doesn't want to admit it because in the past, Watson has made videos like sort of as I think he made like one or two videos in which he spoke negatively about incels, but the thing about it is, but the thing is, like now he's aware the backlash he got for that. He's aware that's part of a big part of his audience, but he doesn't want to acknowledge it. But he also doesn't want to be seen to be endorsing it. So he'll find a way round. Well, what's interesting is that the way the shooting in Plymouth happened is, and if you're younger than me, you probably won't. This is it's something you'd have to look up. But if you go and look up the Hungerford massacre, it was very similar. You know, it was a guy with a gun. That was a guy with a gun who first shot his mother, like this guy did, and then just proceeded to walk around the streets and the housing area where he lived, just shooting random people who went past. Well, I mean, gun control doesn't. Well, I mean, gun control is not really an issue for guns have been. The Hungerford massacre was one of two. There were two incidents that effectively that between them led to basically guns being pretty much banned in this country, and one was the Hungerford massacre, which was 1987, and the other one was the Dunblane school shooting, which I think was 95 or 96. Um, yeah, that was Thomas Hamilton. And since then, I mean, since then the amount of shoot. I mean, there's not really been. Yeah, yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. Of course, I've heard about Sean Lock being dead. I found out. I saw. Well, I saw a YouTube video saying like, it was like a tribute to Sean Lock. I'm like, what was a tribute to Sean Lock? I didn't even know he was sick. Yeah, but yeah, it's a real shame that was. Davidson was the name of the guy, and he had like one thing about the guy, the Plymouth shooter. He does have he looks a lot like edible napalm. You know, but he had a YouTube channel, and there were, his YouTube channel was taken down before. Um, it was quite funny. The YouTube video was taken down, and it said his channel was terminated for activity for terms of service violations that occurred off website. I'm like, oh, is that a terms of service violation? Is it like committing a massacre? Is that one of the YouTube? I didn't know that was a YouTube terms of service. That if you commit a massacre, if you kill a load of people, and if you go and commit a gun, shoot a load of people, and commit a massacre or a mass shooting, that can get your channel terminated. I know Ginger Grip. We all know this. It's been covered. I can't do anything about it. You know. Yeah. No, I remember. Yeah, I remember his was up. Yeah. I mean, this is. I mean, I imagine. I would imagine nowadays YouTube. They probably. This is probably something. Some of the media. I mean, there were people in the media who got it. So obviously. I mean, these days it's quite common for people who YouTube are they've probably got people whose job it is to fucking to sort of keep track of shit like this. So if there's a story in the to keep track of these sorts of news stories, and then try and find out if that person's got a YouTube channel, because the odds are because obviously it's a lot of people who've done stuff like this clearly have at this point. So they want to get I imagine what they would do is they would make the content of the channel sort of available to authorities, but they would keep. The first one I remember was Tony 48219. Who remembers that? That was fucking. That was what 2009, wasn't it? Actually, no. Before that, I remember there was one before that. I remember he was like, he actually had him and the Amazing Atheist actually had a back and forth. And it was a guy. No, it was Finnish. Turning Tree. You're right. It was a guy called. Well, he had two names. He was known as Sturmgeist 89 or something, and the other one, his other username was Natural Selector. And he was part of this community that fucking idolized the Columbine killers, and then he actually filmed himself like getting his gun and loading it, and that was the last video he uploaded. And I think the Amazing Atheist was even contacted. There was a video TJ uploaded, which because he was contacted by a journalist to fucking talk about it, because he had recently, you know. Yeah, I am an encyclopedia of old fucking useless shit that's happened on fucking YouTube. But I remember seeing, because the first thing I heard about that was when I saw Emendham's video responding to the Amazing Atheist, because the Amazing Atheist, when this guy went out and committed this massacre, TJ made this really fucking like sort of, it was almost like sort of self-congratulatory video saying, "I warned you that this would happen," and Emendham made this video just fucking ripping into TJ, going, yeah, what did you warn us about? Hey, look, there's a load of crazy people over here. A crazy person's going to do something crazy, Wow, good. He was like, good fucking job. And it was like, I don't remember, but I didn't really closely follow that. Then you had things like, Christ, you've even had people. Did he warn the Finnish police? No. Well, no, but the thing is, it's like warn people about who. What do we This is the thing. It's like, what are you supposed to? Who are you supposed to warn? The thing is, back then, it wouldn't even matter. Like, go watch that fucking what's his name? Go watch that documentary. Don't fuck with cats on Netflix. That is literally about the guy in that, the Lucas Magnotta. He was he was another internet fucking lunatic, and the whole thing, sort of like the whole story leading up to it is how the police didn't do anything. Like these people that were following this guy, they were collecting all this evidence, they were collecting all of this information, about this guy, and they would send it to the police, and the police didn't do anything, and they didn't, and they sat there, they sat on this fucking information and did nothing about it, and then of course he ultimately went and killed a guy, and it wasn't until he'd actually killed someone that the police started, taking it all seriously, So back then, back then it would have been even. Well, that doesn't, how often does that actually happen? Plus, you have to, there's being arrested, and then there's being taken. It depends. It would have to be a very, very, it's very, rare that happens, and it has to be particularly, But I'm sure, I'm sure, like, a lot of the times, a lot of the time, the thing is, a lot of the times, even with stuff like that, it's generally like, generally people only do it to make an example of someone, They don't do it, it's like, I don't believe that there's, it's like with Count Dankula, right? I don't believe that Count Dankula is the only person who has had someone, logic play. It's just that they chose to, because he was popular, they chose to make an example of him. But I guarantee you, there are loads of other people have probably been have probably had have been reported. The police just don't do, because if you do, you know, the police would do fuck all but go around arresting everybody. Not sacrificial as such, but I mean, it's like, there was a guy, the hypocrisy works both ways. There was a guy who got banned from Twitter because he made a that geezer who's like 100 years old, that Commander Tom Phillips, whatever his name is, that old geezer who raised all that money for charity. Like when he died, there was a guy who tweeted something about him saying the only good British soldier is a dead British soldier. Rot in hell, Commander Tom. Right, and that guy got arrested, and that tweet got taken. That tweet got taken his account. Now none, and when that happened, none of the so-called free speech absolutists were there to defend that guy. No one wanted to fucking. No one was there to stick up for him, because that doesn't play into the narrative, does it? That doesn't, that doesn't play. The whole part of their narrative is only a specific, only certain people get banned for having opinions. Last year, it's like if you actually look at the last couple of years, there are more people, there are more left wing, people, academics and lecturers and professors at university. Okay, Count Dankula did. I didn't see it, but like, okay, fair enough. But he was the only one, wasn't he? It wasn't like, it wasn't. If it had been anyone, if anyone else had said something and they got banned, if it had been anyone, it wasn't. This. You will agree with me that there wasn't the. Yeah. So fair play to Count Dankula. He was consistent on that, but. And like I said, I made it clear at the time that I don't agree. I think the law that led to Count Dankula, I think it is a stupid fucking law. It's one that is, it's one that is so open to, being, taken advantage of. It's one that's so fucking, it's so general and vague that you literally could. I mean, you literally could, report, report anyone for literally saying anything. You don't even have to. It doesn't even have to be anything they said publicly. I even came up with a good but I even came up with an idea of how you could of a campaign that could actually that might have been productive, a way of trying to combat that law, which was much like with Draw Mohammed Day. I said, why don't you have a day where you organise a date, and on that day, everybody uploads, whether it's a video or you post something on Twitter, and then you anonymously report yourself to the police for what you've posted. If everybody fucking did that, when you think of the amount of followers, people like Count Dankula and Sargon and all these other people, if everybody did that, then the police would be fucking literally just flooded with to the point where it would be they wouldn't be able to do anything. They wouldn't be able to deal with all the complaints. It would to the point where it would become obvious that this law is unenforceable. Yeah. The only way they can enforce it is selectively, which is what they do, which is what the problem with all these social media sites like Facebook and Twitter and YouTube is. It's not so much just the rules or the terms of service that they have. It's the fact that they quite clearly selectively enforce. enforce them on people. If you've got, if you've got a lot, if you're very popular, and you're responsible for bringing in a lot of traffic and a lot of money, and thus subsequently a lot of money and a lot of exposure, then you can get away with any. Then they'll let you get away with a lot fucking more than someone who's a small time user. I mean, if Twitter were actually genuine, I mean, this is why Donald Trump's Twitter account, it didn't get suspended until after he was president. While he was president, he could say any fucking thing, and they wouldn't fucking and they wouldn't get it. The second he's fucking not president, bam. But but you can't sit there and say that if Twitter were serious about, like, if Twitter were genuinely committed to, then you wouldn't have allowed. You would have banned Trump ages ago. It's like Alex Jones. Alex Jones didn't get banned until it became it became negative. It had a negative effect on, YouTube determined that him being on their platform, them allowing him to continue on their platform, was reflected badly on them, so they terminated him. But if the case, if it was, if they were serious about it, they could have banned him back in 2010. Because that's effectively what it was. It was the stuff about Sandy Hook that got him fucking. It was the stuff about Sandy Hook and the stuff about that got him in, that got him banned, and that was the Sandy Hook stuff. That was 2012. But it took until 2017, 2018 before he fucking before he gets banned. You know. I mean, I'll be honest. I've never, like I said, I've never watched Countdown. I've never been. It's never been. I've never really, you know, even though he's made several tweets about me, which are quite funny, but which is weird because I've never actually criticized him for, like, I did not. People seem to have this idea that I was, like, I supported him being arrested, and I never did. You know, what I resented was the fact that people compared what I did with what he did. With what he did, and I'm like, there's a reason I've never been fucking arrested. You know, for all this, and I invited, and there were several people who claimed at the time that they had reported me to the police. I'm like, okay, I will sit here and wait. Fuck all, nothing. Yeah. Well, he can stick to what he wants. I'm not going to comment on. As I said, I don't watch him. I don't comment on. I'm not going to comment on. Find. Yeah, but that, according to them, everything's been ruined by. No, no. It is down to, you know. It's down to, you know. A lot of it's down to, look. Here's the thing, you know. It's down to a lot of it's also down to, you know, context and, you know, and environment of a, you know. It's like, you know, there are people who will, you know, there are people who will say that, you know, that you shouldn't do jokes about that, but I'm just like, you know, everybody has got, most people, you know, I say that not everybody, most people have got, you know, that line where, you know, they will tolerate pretty much a joke about anything, but this thing, you know, but you know, this thing is something that you couldn't, you know, you couldn't do a joke about, and that's generally down to more of a personal, down to, that's generally down to that person's subjective experience with it. Like, you know, if you're like, you know, you could do a, like, if you're talking to, if you're talking to someone, you know, if you're, you know, if you're talking to someone who's got a lot of experience. Bernard Manning always said, well, I'm not really interested in what Bernard Manning, yeah, well, no, Bernard Manning didn't, you know, but Bernard Manning didn't have a problem doing jokes about, you know, he didn't have a problem using, you know, being racist, did he? He didn't have a problem doing jokes about, you know, police, you know, police, you know, beating up black people. He didn't have a problem. I what there was once, Bernard Manning once did a gig in Glasgow, and and one of his opening lines when he went on stage, and you know, I'm going to quote him. He said, you know, he said, the great thing about Glasgow is you can always whack a packy on the way home. Now, and of course, the audience were like, "Yay!" Cheering that. Right now, my personal opinion is that's not a joke. That is literally just describing a hate crime and saying that it's, you know, the great thing about living here is you can commit a hate crime against a minority and that's it. Right now, and there weren't many packies in the fucking audience, you know, who saw it as ironic. No, there were mostly white geezers with fucking Union, with fucking St George Cross tattoos on their forehead. Is there any? No, there is no. Well, no, I mean, here's the thing. I don't set out to, like, you know, I don't set out, you know, personally, I will do a joke, you know. I have no problem doing a joke about anything, you know, but I won't do a joke about something for the sake of it. It's got to be a good joke. You know, I mean, if you go through, like, you know, if you go through my, you know, the stand up videos that I've got, you know, there's pretty much, you know, there's, if you were to make a list of all the things that I've done, even if they're just casual one liners, you know, there's pretty much no, but I mean, I won't do it just for the sake of it. You know, I'll do, you know, a joke. You know, I want to do a joke because it's funny. You know, I don't set out to do jokes about certain subjects, you know, because they're controversial. You know, that's you know. I mean, you know, my routine about abortion, which, you know, which you may or may not have seen, that I did for several years. You know, I did that the first time I ever performed that routine, which was 45 minutes, which was 45 minutes originally. I performed it in front of an audience that contained the girl who had the abortion that I was talking about, her parents, and my parents. Right. Most, you know, that is, I mean, that is one of my rules. I will not do a joke. If, you know, if I write a joke, then one of my standards is, would I tell this joke in front of anybody? Is there anybody, is there any circumstance where I would look out into an audience and go, I'm not And if there is, then I just won't do it. Because a good joke should, should be able to be, should be universal. No. But if there's a circumstance in which, I'm willing to, do I think the comedian has the responsibility to punch up? Personally, responsibility is to be funny, and you know this whole punching up thing. So I think I think to an extent it's subjectively, you know, it is subjectively applied, and I think there are circumstances when you could make an argument that someone's punching down, but because of but there's certain biases. Because what I don't like is that there is this natural assumption people make that if you do a joke about something, that that joke is that jokes are inherently disrespectful, that you are mocking or ridiculing, and that's not true. Jokes can be a joke can be anything. A joke can be, yes, it can be, it can be, hurtful, and it can be, but it can also be empowering. It can be uplifting. It can be positive. It can be inspiring. It can, it can be wholesome. It can be anything you want. And just because you do a joke about something doesn't mean that joke doesn't mean that it's that you are, you are mocking that thing. I mean, a lot of people, generally one of the most common thing people will say that people will draw a line is on the subject of rape jokes. Now, if you're in here and you've been watching my videos, you're probably familiar with my video called "The Rapiest Community," which I uploaded, I think, in 2015, right? And that was at the time. That was at the time, and I still think it is. That was, that was one of the most positive and well received, and I think it's probably in my top 3 best videos I've ever made, and it's 11 minutes, and it is 11 minutes of rape jokes. But what I'm not doing in that video is I'm not mocking rape victims. I'm not, I'm not making fun. I'm not making light of it. I'm not making light of rape. I'm not, I'm not making light of actual cases of it. I'm not using it as a way of attacking someone. But there's still, that doesn't mean they're any less rape jokes, right? And and considering my audience, the audience, the sort of audience I have, the fact that I could do that video and get no, and get no backlash or no pushback from it, sort of suggests, sort of makes my point. And whenever I get people who say that, who talk about, because generally when people talk about rape jokes, they're not talking about rape jokes. They're talking about people who make horrible, horrible comments, or who use rape, like, in a, Carl would be a good, I was going to say that would be an example. And then they claim that, oh, it was just a joke. I was just joking. It's like, yeah, but you're joking about raping an actual human being. And you might be joking, but that's not, you might still be joking. It doesn't mean, what I hate is, and that's another thing I hate, and I loathe this excuse, is when people make that old "it's just a joke" thing. I'm like, what does that mean? How, to me it's like, that is so, particularly when people who are comedians fucking make that "it's just a joke." I'm like, nothing's just a joke, is it? Was George Carlin just joking? Was Jon Stewart, when he did the Daily Show, just joking? It's like, are you saying that jokes can't mean anything? Are you saying that jokes can't, convey a greater message? It's like saying Mein Kampf is just a book. or it's like if you were gonna, you wouldn't play Screwdriver. You would play a song by Screwdriver, and when people complained about how racist it is, you wouldn't say, "Oh, it's just a song." You know, so why? How come you can say it's just a joke? Since when were jokes? There's a reason why so many comedians are looked back on, and their material is looked on with such reverence and such, and they're thought of so greatly because they took advantage, because comedy gives you the ability, the freedom to stand on stage with a microphone and say whatever the fuck you want. And there are people who have done that, and when they do that, people tend to, and this is why people like Bill Hicks and George Carlin and Richard Pryor, you know, and Jon Stewart, and Peter Cook and Chris Morris are so are seen in such a way, are so great because they took advantage of that. They took advantage of the freedom that they had. You know, there is no such thing as a joke. Well, I mean, if you're a Dane Cook fan, I mean, don't get me wrong. Sometimes you can, like, there are some occasions when saying, look, I was it was just a silly joke. When there can be, you can make jokes that don't necessarily mean anything. They're just they're just silly for the sake of it, and they don't actually have they don't convey any greater message. But sort of like that, sort of like Tim Vine sort of stuff. Um, but I definitely think that this was a problem a couple, many years ago. I got in a lot of shit because of a joke I made on Twitter that I that I genuinely that I did not tell with any malice in my heart whatsoever. But this joke greatly offended a lot of people who were transgender. I'll tell you the joke. And the joke was there was a hashtag going around saying it was hashtag ruin a date in 4 words. No, ruin a date in 5 words. Um, and and my joke was ruin a date in 5 words. So that's what pre-op means. Now, in my mind, right now, my mindset when I wrote that, for me, in my mind, I wrote that thinking, well, the butt of the joke here is not the transgender person; it's the ignorance of the person who clearly, who didn't understand what that meant, and is actually, that was, but evidently, this was not the case because a lot of people got very, very, got very upset by it. There were some who were a little bit over the top. You know, there was one person in particular who claimed that my joke gave them PTSD. To which I just said, "Well, I'm putting that on my posters from now on because who would not want to go see a stand-up show that said warning this?" Even Frankie Boyle and and Doug Stanhope couldn't put that on their fucking. Warning: this show contains jokes that may give you PTSD. You know, but I listened to it, and evidently and my response was I didn't apologise for telling the joke, but I did apologise for telling a bad joke, for not considering how this joke would be perceived, which is not me, sort of like kowtowing to the mob mentality. No, no, zombie, it's not. The audio is shit. You're gonna have to live with it. That's what comedians do. That's what good comedians do anyway. It's what I do it with every joke I write. With every joke I write, I have to take into consideration, like, is this going to be perceived the way I want it to? Is there any way that people could, yeah, that's important, particularly when you're talking about issues and subjects, this, the sort of stuff that I talk about. And what I apologise for is I apologise for telling a bad joke, and for not, because and I said that that in future. Now I understand. I'm aware of this. If I do make a joke, if I do make a joke that involves someone who's transgender, then I will be much more vigilant and thoughtful about whether or not it's perceived that way. And the funny thing, and that was my position, right? And that was my stance on it. And the funny thing was, there were people who there were people who were still pissed off with me because I still because I refused to entertain that it was possible. I'm like, jokes can be inclusive. That's another thing. It's like jokes can be inclusive. Jokes don't have to be exclusionary. In my experience, whenever I've been doing, whenever I've done gigs, and there's, it's the two groups who love it. There are two groups of people, or two. Wasn't there a whole group of people pissed off? Oh, probably. Well, there were probably people pissed off at me. Well, there's been people. There still are. I mean, my whole thing about the N word is that just I refuse to. I don't see. For me, it's kind of patronising. For me, it's patronising for me to sit here and think that a black person could not watch my videos in which I am responding to stuff that a racist person has said, or I'm watching, or I'm reading content, or stuff on a website that a racist person has written. And that I think black people are smart enough to know the difference. They don't need me to. This person's been called that. This person has been called that word 1,000 times. Right? It's not like they can't deal with it. They can understand context. And for me, there's almost a kind of benevolent racism to it. It's like I'm going to say N word. It's almost like the people who do that are sort of saying to black people, I wouldn't say that word. Other people, I wouldn't say that word. It's almost like a kind of virtue signaling. Particularly when particularly when the people who are complaining about it are white people. Right, And and I don't care. And people can link me, and I've had people link me to all of these, different studies and different books and different fucking articles, and I'm like, I don't give a shit. About that. It's like I'm talking from personal experience, right? Find me one person who has watched my videos, and the one thing they've taken away from it is I feel much more comfortable saying the N word now. And the reason I'm saying N word now is purely because I don't want to get fucking flagged. By YouTube. And the thing that pisses me off is that for the most part, people black, people of color who or non-white people who watch my videos, they appreciate that. They don't that doesn't bother them. And when I bring them up as an example, I'm like, if every black person who watched my videos, objected to it, then then I might consider. But that's not what happens. And yeah, well, Reginald D. Hunter's a great example of Reginald D. Hunter in, I think it was 2009 or 10. He did basically every show when he started. I don't know if it's still the case, but I don't think it's still the case. But when he started out, when Reginald D. Hunter started out, and was, every year he would do the show he would do would have the word niggers in the title, or nigger with an A, with a soft A. And one of his shows, I think it was his 2010 show, was called Pride, Prejudice, and Niggers. And it was him, like dressed up in the sort of the Pride and Prejudice period. I think like pointing at this thing, and there were billboard-sized posters of that. on the London Underground, and it got banned. And then he got in trouble because he did a stand up set at a sort of a charity event organised by the Football Association. And in his set, he repeatedly used that word, and he got in trouble. People were criticising Reginald D. Hunter. Yeah, tell him not to. Tell him if this bothers you, don't read Huckleberry Finn. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. It's like, yeah, I think this isn't gonna, and also, I also would say this, if you're a white person and you genuinely, you're someone who genuinely wants to try and, do what you can to, to combat and fight and challenge racism, then at least have the fucking, then at then, and if you can't even bring yourself to say the words that white people have made fucking, that white people created, then how are you going to be an actual racist? How are you going to defeat racism? Or how are you going to be able to go, to take on anyone who's racist if you can't even, handle or bring yourself to just say the word? You know, it's kind of insulting. I think. That's my personal, and I don't say it in front of everyone. I don't say it in front of, you know. Generally, I'll make a joke about it. Generally when I've done, in my stand-up shows, if there are people, if there are people of colour or black people, and there is a routine, I will generally make a joke out of it. And well, all I'll say is this: to this day, I've never had a single black person storm out of my fucking show, and and get a I had one. I remember, my last show, the anti-white PC Mangina Activate. I do that joke at the end where I hold up that big A3 laminate photo of a paper mache gollywog. There was a woman who came up to me after one of the shows talking about how, her son, she was white, but her son, evidently she had a black husband, and her son therefore was mixed race. And she said, if my son saw that, he would be, that would, he probably would, that would probably bother him. And her son wasn't there. Right? And I was like, okay. And she said this to me, like, and she looked at me as if, say, you might want to consider dropping that. I'm like, you want me to drop a joke based on based on how offended somebody who wasn't here, was, I'm like, does anyone, is there anything more fucking, does there anything seem more patronising than a white person, telling someone, you drop that joke because, there are black people, there are non-white people I know who would not find that funny. I'm like, well, then I'll tell you what, when they come to my show and they get upset about it, you know what I mean? Yeah, and there's just there is just that, there is that sort of benevolent racist, sort of element to it, where it's like, I'm a white person, but I'm going to be offended on behalf of, and I'm going to speak on behalf. I'm going to tell you, what offends and upsets black people. The same, you get the same with all, with everyone else. Generally, more often than not, the people who get offended by certain jokes that you do are not people who are part of that group. Most of the people, if I've ever told a joke that involved gay people or or homosexuality, more often than not, 9 times out of 10, the people who have been offended are straight women who have gay friends. No gay person has ever given a shit about any fucking thing. In fact, a lot of gay people have come up to me after my show and told me how much they loved it. Same with disabled people. It's never it's never just, it's people who know someone, you know, or it's people who assume, you know, who don't want to be seen laughing because they don't know whether on, because they're considering how this type of person might, it's like it doesn't matter, you know, whereas gay people and disabled people are the, of all the groups that want to be included in fucking in comedy, they want you to, they resent, they actually resent you if you choose to fucking, ignore them or don't treat them the same way, the same way you would treat anyone else, and that's kind of, that's another, point that's been made before, South Park was, one of the early, in its early days, had to make that point. It's like saying, look, we can't pick and choose here. If we're going to make fun of this, we have to make fun of everything. Because if we start saying, well, we can make fun of this group, but not that group, or we can make fun of that belief, but not that belief. We can make fun of this type of person, but not that type of person. We are discriminating, and we're saying that, and whichever way you slice it or whichever way you look at it, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good because you're either saying that, it's okay to make fun of these people, but it's not okay to make fun of these people. So you're either saying these people cannot handle or can't take a joke or have no sense of humor about it, or you're saying that, it's okay, these people deserve to be ridiculed, whereas these people don't just because they happen to be, what I mean? So you've got to take that kind of, you've got to take that kind of. It doesn't mean you can do anything, but it means that you must be, you've at least got to be, keep it in mind, and be open to it. What was the question? Right. It's about how, yeah. Yeah, there's a user, there's a user on YouTube, on Twitter, who's very popular. I think her name's Casey Explosions. You might be familiar with her. She's a, but um, and they're very popular amongst the left wing, community. I think they have but they've got a very popular Twitter account, right? And well, as far as I'm concerned, whoever, I don't know anything about them. That person, whoever they are, can go fuck themselves. As far as I'm concerned, because when I was getting dogpiled a couple of years ago, on Twitter, and for about a week, I was public enemy number one. Right. Casey Explosions decided to share a screenshot of a tweet after blocking me. Share a screenshot of a tweet I made in which they deliberately cut out the fact that the fact that my tweet was responding to someone, and made it look like I was just apropos of nothing, making fun of people with Down syndrome for no, when in fact I was responding to something Owen Benjamin had said. Owen Benjamin had posted this tweet making fun of people with Down syndrome and calling them retards. And I responded to him by saying, Owen, you're such an unmitigated cunt that you could be locked in a room with 100 people with Down syndrome for a week and not get a single hug. And what Casey Explosions did was take a screen cap, cutting out the Owen Benjamin quote, which I feel really greatly changed the fucking context and made it look like I was just insulting some random person and using Down syndrome people as a way, which is not the case. Right? In the context of Owen Benjamin's quote, my joke is actually it's actually empowering. It's actually, saying that, you can call these people retards if you want, but these people have got more fucking common sense and are more fucking, and more, and are better judges of character than you give them credit for, because even, because they would recognise what a cunt you are, right? And that, and this, and who, And Casey deliberately chose to do that, and the fact that you chose to do that, and they posted it with a tweet saying something like, "Why is this person been allowed to be part of our community?" And I'm like, "I'll tell you why, fuckface, because I've been here since day fucking one, almost, right? And I will fucking, and I've done more in that time than you could fucking, than you've probably achieved. I will have a dick measuring contest with you any day of the fucking week. Sunbeam, so don't you dare fucking, I didn't ask to be part of any pissing community that you're in. I'm quite happy not to be, to not be, But, you know, but I get that. I mean, I always say this to people, when people, I accept that my style, the way I do, the way I go about what I do is not everyone's cup of tea. Not everybody likes it. And to those people, I say, if you already agree with me, then don't watch my videos because they're not for you. But you're going to have to trust me when I tell you that the reason I do this, the reason I do this the way that I do is because it works. I know it fucking works. There are less, thanks to my videos, there are less people in the world who are homophobes, who are racists, Islamophobes, anti-Semites, because of what I've done. I know that. There are not more, there are less. And I'm willing to fucking, and even if some people do watch it and get offended by it, that's collateral damage. They'll get over it. It's this mentality. There's this mentality amongst people that there's, my attitude is that you do whatever methods or technique, whatever way suits you, or whatever you think is best, or whatever you're best at, do it that way. But there's no right or wrong way to do this. No. There's no, there's no good or bad. If your method, if the way that you do things works, and you then do it that way, right? But this is the problem with a lot of people is they have this mentality that there is a right way and a wrong way. And the way and the way I do it is wrong. I'm like, well, I'm sorry, you're wrong, and I've got the fucking, and I know that. Sorry, that was a bit of a rant. Anyway, what word would I use? I wouldn't use any word specifically. I mean, I would, this I don't want to. I don't need. I don't need to categorize people. I'm just like, it's just. It's nothing. It's not a matter. It's not a matter of people being part of a certain group. It's a matter of taste. You know. It's like, some people don't like. Some people don't like certain comedians. They might. Some people might not. They might agree with, in principle, with certain comedians, but they just don't find their way of doing it particularly funny. Well, don't watch that comedian. Watch a comedian that you do enjoy. This is Count Dankula's tweet where he mentions me. Here it is. Broke Count Dankula is a literal Nazi for his joke. Woke. Dick Coughlin is an acquired taste. Don't worry, I get it. He is allowed to make those jokes because you have the same politics. Completely fair and unbiased. Absolutely. Now I never met, now I don't know, who he's referring to, but again, he's equating. Can I just say as well, if you go watch Dry Your Nazi Eyes, which was written, I think, in 2009, in that video, I've got that stuffed. I'm dragging around that stuffed dog, and at one point, that dog and me and that dog does a Nazi salute out the window. So I was doing the fucking dog doing a Nazi salute, fucking 7 years before he fucking sashayed on the scene. If anything, you know. He's stolen my fucking. He's stolen my act. Yeah. I belong on stage. I do. I belong anywhere. Yeah. I'm brilliant live. No one can do an accent here. Everyone can do accents. These people who say they can't do accents, you can. You just. I mean, you do an accent now. I mean, your natural voice is an accent. There's a reason why everybody, people from the same area. All talk the same. You never get anyone who's Irish who sounds like they're from Birmingham, do they? Why is it a black? It's a black Jesus holding up. I have no idea. It was just a. I think that was just an Instagram filter, and I just thought that was funny. I just read to you this is from a nationalist Facebook page called "This Is England." And if this doesn't convince you that we need to close up the borders, then I don't know what will. And just FYI, the geezer who posted this is some short, fat, dumpy motherfucker who had a fucking chainmail hood on. Just to give you full context, I bought a bird feeder, which I hung on my back porch and filled it with seed. What a beauty of a bird feeder it was, as I filled it lovingly with seed. Within a week, I had hundreds of birds taking advantage of the continuous flow of free and easily accessible food. However, the birds started building nests in the boards of the patio, above the table, and next to the barbecue. Then came the shit. It was everywhere, on the patio tiles, the chairs, the table, everywhere. Then some of the birds turned mean. They would dive bomb me and tried to peck me, even though I had fed them out of my own pocket. It's almost as if they're birds, isn't it, mate? With who, don't have the intellectual capacity to fully understand this. Then other birds became more boisterous and loud. They sat on the feeder and squawked and screamed at all hours of the day and night, as if they were demanding that I fill it when it got low on food. After a while, I couldn't even sit on my own back porch anymore, so I took down the bird feeder. And within 3 days, the birds were gone. I cleaned up their mess and took down the many nests they had built all over the patio. Before I knew it, the backyard was like it used to be, quiet and serene, and no one demanding their rights to a free meal. I don't believe any of the birds were demanding their rights to a free meal. You know, you gave them a free meal and they took it. Yeah. This reminds me so much of how things are in this country right now. The UK gives out free food, subsidised housing, spelled with a Z, free medical care and free education, etc. Then the illegals came by the tens of thousands. Suddenly our taxes went up to pay for all these free services. What were we paying for them? What were we using to pay for them before? Fucking magic beans. Houses were now housing 5 families. You have to wait approximately 6 hours to be seen by an emergency room doctor. We don't have emergency rooms in this country. Your child's primary grade class, we don't have grades either, is behind. I think both of those are American. You know, your child's primary grade class is behind other schools because over half the class do not speak your language. That's bollocks. Okay. Squawking and screaming in the streets, demanding more rights and free liberties. How do you know if they don't speak English? Just my opinion, but maybe it's time for our government to take down the bird feeder. If you agree, pass it on. If not, just continue cleaning up the shit. Overcrowding breeds criminality. Fact. Yes. Before immigration existed, there was no crime. Fucking old people who fucking bang on about that. Back in my day, you could leave your front door unlocked. No one would rob you. That's because you had fuck all worth nicking, though. I think Mother Nature's here. Mother Nature's not here to do anything. Mother Nature has no agency. Nature has no, you know. Yeah, nature doesn't have any objective, or you know, or principles. It's just, you know. Well, no. If there's one thing YouTube has done, it's you know, before YouTube, you know, Canada was like, you know, Canada was just this place full of lovely people. But you know, you gave us Aureni, Stefan Molyneux, Jordan Peterson, um, Lauren Chen. Feeder. Yeah. And yes, I mean birds in the colloquialised slang. Just a reminder, if anyone here is not following me on Patreon, if you do so, you will go. You know, if you do start following me on Patreon, you can watch the 2 videos I uploaded earlier today. Canadian too. I'm trying to remember. Those fat bottom girls make the rocking world go round. Who's Freddie? What's happened? Freddie Mercury. Oh right, okay. He die of? And everyone would say, AIDS, no, pneumonia. No one ever died from AIDS. Always gets a bad rap, but you know. Then your brain kicked in. Is it not really? Well, it's anti-retro, really. video. I've got this. I've joined this website called Odyssey.com, which is a video sharing site where I can upload where I can upload some of my now too hot for YouTube material. And one thing I'm going to be doing is getting a load of is basically taking videos which I respond to, one user that I've got a lot of, and it's not spelt like that. It's Odyssee, and I'm going to be putting them together into one video. I've already done. I did the other day, or at least as many videos as I've still got. I've already done Martin J. Willett, which was nearly 2 hours long, and I'm currently uploading. The Thunderfoot. All of my videos I've got responding to Thunderfoot, which is just over 3 hours. This is a different site, yeah. Well, I mean, I nearly lost all hope. A couple of, I lost all. Is it Brother Neuro? Yes, I nearly lost all hope when last month I tried. I tried uploading some of my videos onto Dailymotion, and within 4 days, my account got terminated. And I'm like, if I can't, if I can't even upload this shit onto Dailymotion, which is literally one of the most fucking anything goes fucking. Well, I think at the moment, I think there's only I don't know I don't know how many. There might be one or two, but as far as I'm aware, there's not many. There's only one, maybe one, if or two, if that, copies left on YouTube of Nazis Without Aptitude. I think even. I once found a video on Dailymotion that had been up for several years of this guy killing a dog, like cutting its head off and setting it on fire. It had been up for years. And I'm like, what the fucking hell? I'm like, that website. I mean, Dailymotion, to be honest with you, is just Netflix without the fucking, but for free. If you want to watch a TV show or a film and you can't find it, just type in the name of the show with Dailymotion in a search, and you'll find it. One of the reasons I'm putting all these videos, I'm trying to compile all these different sort of response videos, is because some of you may remember, like last year, I started and did a couple of videos to do what was supposed to be a sporadic series where it called YouTube Drama Revisited, and I did Pat Condell and Nick Bravo. Those were the only two, and I figured I should really, and let's face it, everyone's gonna, the one everyone wants to see is Thunderfoot. So I was putting out all of them together. I can remember briefly, like back in like 2008, when it was possible still, to upload like hardcore pornography to YouTube. It wouldn't last very long. Dave. Stop trivializing a devastating terminal illness. Why? With all due respect, mate, there's 15 people in this chat. Do you think anything we say is going to have a devastating effect on on reality? I could sit here and literally, I could read Mein Kampf here, and it would not. I think we'd be able to, deal with the fallout. If I personally suffered from any devastating terminal illness, the least of my worries, would be someone making jokes about it online. Now, in all fairness, I'm in a position where any terminal illness I could potentially get is probably one I've made loads of jokes about it. So, why don't adults get to? There's something for you. Why, if you're an adult with a terminal illness, why is there no Make-A-Wish? Why do people? Why is it only kids get to have something cool happen to them when they're going to die? Why is there no sort of like? Why is it assumed that adults don't deserve to get to meet John Cena, or or get driven around in a NASCAR, or get to go do whatever? Why is it only? Yeah, well, zoo sadism. Yeah, I mean, I mean, to be honest with you, I know. I've said this a million times that the amount of times I've discovered something on the internet and said that is the most disgusting and fucked up thing I've ever encountered in my life, and then I've come across something else. I don't know what. And I know there's something, and if it isn't out there now, then one day it will be, and I will fucking come across it online. But for now, I can't imagine what that would be. Someone would literally have to do a human centipede for real. Or do the IRL version of fucking of Sallow, or a Serbian film. Well, no, that's my point, John. That's my point. Is why don't we have an adult version of Make-A-Wish? Why not? No, nobody would notice. Here's the thing: nobody would notice if that's like the fucking Koch brothers, losing their losing a couple of losing their wallet. My curiosity. The thing is, it's not a case of curiosity for me. I mean, the thing is, this sort of stuff would be, you know. Listen. It doesn't matter where people can fucking delete anything. It will pop up somewhere else. Someone else will fucking create a place you can upload it. What are my thoughts on OnlyFans? I think it's a brilliant idea. I think it's a fantastic idea. I mean, it's baffling, isn't it? I mean, the thing about OnlyFans is it was never intended to be a pornographic. So it was meant to just be a place where people could upload exclusive, like, content that people had to pay for. You know, which, to be fair, which, and it didn't have any rules against people who uploaded not suitable for work content. And and people realised it. And then it's sort of like, So I don't, and but you wonder, like, but it's kind of and you kind of wonder why would you choose to do. I could understand if it was a case of that, adult content was only, a small part of but it's kind of what OnlyFans has, is known for. Well, no, they're not to be another Patreon, because Patreon is a place where you can get paid for any content, and upload exclusive content too. Um, well, I mean, also, from what I understand, it's not. You will still be able to. People will still be able to upload content that involves nudity. It just can't be, but they've got to, this is going to be one of the, like most terms of service, it's going to be, it's going to be vague, and it's going to be, it's going to be applied with no consistency um, whatsoever. But apparently, but apparently, from what I haven't looked into it too much, but from the one or two articles I read about it, it's like this is apparently, what the people who are the financial investors, in people who are financially invested in OnlyFans have asked for. I'm like, are you mental? Are you, like, like, literally a couple of years ago, nobody had heard of your, like, now it's like a joke, isn't it? It's like a sort of, it's a meme. It's part of, like, it's like, oh, they've got I've got an OnlyFans account. It's like a sort of, everybody knows what it is. You know, that's quite like, that doesn't happen very. That's quite a, and now I mean, there's loads of other websites, that are like it, that are gonna benefit from it, but I just don't understand. It's, and the problem is that, you're going to be, you know you want to encourage people to do more than that, but it's like, I don't see, if your goal is to just make money. But here's the thing: you could still, there's nothing stopping people, because, a lot of people on OnlyFans, from what I've heard from friends, a lot of people, they won't upload anything explicit on their main page, but but privately they can send you stuff, and I don't see, if they're still going to allow nudity, then that's probably what's going to happen. Still, pornography on the internet is like, it's like life in, it's like what Jeff Goldblum said about in Jurassic Park. Life finds a way. You know, and there's lots of other, there's a couple of other websites. I'm sure there's like Fansly, or, the thing is, you can do it on, a lot of people might just go to Patreon. I mean, you can do that on Patreon too. Yeah. Again, from what I've heard, I mean, people can still do that. I mean, you don't have to. You don't have to have your stuff on an external site. I mean, people could just go to fucking to a website like Pornhub if they want to, and you can have content that and you can upload certain content as being you've got to pay to see that. You know, if someone can hack anything, I mean, once your stuff, this is one of the thing. This is one thing that I find quite annoying. Like you get these girls on Twitter who upload, you know, these the rather explicit images of themselves, and they're like, "Do not download and keep any of my. Don't download my the images I upload." Like fuck you. What are you going to do about it? It's not against the law. You don't want people to download anything. Then here's a tip: don't upload it. No one's going to do it because you asked them to. You know. I remember, it is a blast from the past. Remember Nuclear Night? I remember once I mean, I can't remember who she was responding to, but she literally said in a video, "You do not have the right to to think of me when you masturbate." I'm like, darling, don't sweat it. I can, I'm pretty sure no one's doing that, but unless they're looking for a challenge. But even if they were, I'm afraid they do. You know, there's nowhere that says there's no legal fucking. There's nowhere on any document of law that says. To be fair, the advantage that the thing that makes porn that separated Pornhub and made Pornhub is Pornhub has a really good marketing team. You know, they have they're really they know how to market themselves and get very they take advantage of trends and know how to get positive PR and stuff. Um, well, it depends what you mean by depraved. I mean, here's the thing: it's like this is something that's happened. This is something the internet has done. The internet has normalized porn to an extent that I don't think anyone would have believed possible. I mean, like, how many people, like, who who you would not expect to, you know something like this, know what two girls one cup is. If you say two girls one cup to anyone, my mum and dad would know what two girls one cup is. And you don't have to have seen it, but you know what it is. And and considering what it is, that's quite incredible. That people, I will say this: you can, if you even if you choose to watch it. I mean, know this is fake. It's the fact is people know what it is. And there was it wasn't that long ago that pornography was just like it wasn't something you even joked about in the it was one of those areas you didn't go into any discussion, but now everybody knows what it is. Everybody knows what porn. It's everybody knows what OnlyFans. I find it quite, I find it quite comforting to know that, that a couple of generations time, you know, like in 2 or 3 generations, there are going to be children whose grandpa, who's like 1 in 3 teenagers, their grandmother will have had an OnlyFans. You know, to a lesser extent, there's one guy, one jar. You showed your mother too. Good man. Did she like it? Yeah. The I find it just the way people like miss the point with again with like people like I remember like last year when Billie Eilish, on the day Billie Eilish turned 18 last year, her name was the most searched topic on Pornhub, and there were all these people losing their shit over it. And I'm like, can we just? I'm like, why are you angry about this? Like, this, you know what we need to be at? Can we just try and dissect the mentality or the thinking of the guys who were searching that? Right? These well, if you're searching that on the day she turned 18, then that means that you think that Billie Eilish woke up on that day, turning 18, going right. Let's get the lads over and let's get some fucking hardcore pornography fucking uploaded. I'm like, what kind of nuts fucking thinks like that? So if you want to be worried about it, you should be worried about the geezers who were typing their name into Pornhub before she turned 18. Yeah. Yeah, but that's different. That's actually she would have actually been uploading though. That's my point is that she had an OnlyFans. My point is these guys were like, right, Billie Eilish turned 18. Now I'm going to search for her name on Pornhub on the off chance that the first thing she's going to do, having turned 18, is make a load of hardcore pornography and upload it to fucking Pornhub. I'm like, probably not. You should worry. Here's the thing. You should worry more about the fact that. What about the geezers who were typing her name in 3 years ago? They're the geezers you should be probably a bit more worried about. about the fact that the category teen is one of the most popular. I'm like, have you seen something? Did you know that just because it says teen doesn't mean that here's an idea. Literally the most of the women in pornography, they're not. It's not. I've seen women who are literally they're in videos that are called MILF and Cougar category, and then you see the same woman in a video marked teen when they're quite clearly about 47 years old. You know. Well, no, there's been several things like that, John. Do you remember they used to do this award called the Rear of the Year, and and one year I can't remember when it was. It'd be like the mid to late '90s. Charlotte Church won Rear of the Year when she was 16. That was fucking. Yeah, that was fucking creepy too. I met Lindsay Dawn Mackenzie. Nice lady. Yeah. Yeah, but this is the problem with a lot of this is a problem I see a lot nowadays is like there's a lot of people who don't seem to they don't understand the difference between fantasy. Like fantasy does not mean you'll do the things the things that you put in fantasy have got don't have any bearing on anything. you know like if you've got a thing for women in schoolgirls uniforms, that doesn't mean you're a closet pedophile. And I've literally seen people making that argument online because that's why it's not because they're not schoolgirls, they're full grown women in something that doesn't resemble. Well, no, it's also this. It's the fact that it's not then it's not just the kink thing. It's like the fact is it's not schoolgirls that turn you on. It's hot women in certain uniforms. You'll notice the uniforms that are associated with pornography or sex or fantasies are very limited. There's schoolgirl, policewoman, nurse, nun, right, and that's it. But you don't get postal worker, do you? You don't get fucking milkman. And there I see people making like worrying and like getting freaked out about this, and I'm like saying, so let me get this straight. You're now including, in your mind, paedophile is the definition of paedophile has now been extended to man in consensual relationship with full-grown adult consenting woman, right? Like that's the that's what you're saying, is it right? And if anything, if even if it was true that men who were into that, you know, had pedophilic tendencies, wouldn't it be? Shouldn't we be congratulating these guys for being able to, is rather than rape children, they've thought, why don't I have a consensual, relationship with an adult woman, and just get her to wear a schoolgirl's uniform every now and again, rather than rape children? Isn't that a fucking much more preferable? And by shaming and by trying to speak out against this, you are effectively you know forcing these if you try somehow demonize this fucking these people, you're just gonna they're gonna end up going well, I've no choice now, I've got to fuck kids, I suppose. it's it's madness. it can be, you know, and the schoolgirl uniform thing is really easily explainable. You know how, you know, when men start having, you know, biological urges of that nature, where are they? How old are they? 12, 13? Where are they? Where do they spend most of their day? At school. You know, so most of the girls they have their first, you know, strong feelings for are girls they're at school with. What do girls at school always wear? Fucking school, you know, school uniform. That's it. You know, I've even seen people doing the same thing over, you know, over like the use of the word daddy. Like when someone calls, like when a woman calls another man, I'm like, you know, when a man calls, you know, if someone calls refers to their partner as baby, do you think that's a term? Do you see that as a term of endearment, or do you think it's because they literally, you know, are fantasizing about them being a literal baby? Right. Because if you're going to do it with daddy, you're going to do it. You've got to do it across the board. You know. Yeah, but even then, Poppy, I don't think I don't think necessarily, you know, you know, I mean, there is, you know, there are like, you know, there is that fetish as well, like, you know, where it's, you know, it's, you know, where you know, people do infantilize is that how you pronounce it, infantilize their partner. And again, if it's, you know, I don't see it as meaning anything beyond it's just, you know, it's not the same thing, you know what I mean? It's like just not. We don't know what, you know, at the end of the day, none of us know what anybody's into, you know, because it's no one's business, you know. It's, you know, what people, you know, this is stuff, this goes to the, you know, what people get up to behind closed doors. That's none, you know, it's, you don't know, and as long as no one's getting hurt, it shouldn't really matter, you know. There are people who love pissing and shitting in each other's mouths, and I would, you know, wouldn't, you know, just that just fucking grosses me out. But I'm not. I don't assume that someone who does that is somebody who's going to be, you know, eating their own poo, right? Or someone who's getting aroused when they go to the toilet and someone does a fucking big stinking great shit next to, you know. It's just not. It's all, you know, it's context. I'm just personally, you know, I'm always wary of anything that involves people. You know, anytime you see people obsessing over what other people get up to, it's the same with, like, you know, the people who are, you know, who obsess over gay people or people who are transgender, and it so it's like, you know, it's got nothing to do with you. Why are you, you know, and generally you'll find the people, you know, and those people have always got something to fucking hide. You know, it's like the people who are the people who want to ban pornography. They've got the dodgiest hard drive. Yeah. Well, good for you. You know. I always used to do this joke about fucking, about Islamic extremist pornography. It's got women doing things they shouldn't be doing, like voting, driving, and having an opinion and stuff. It's really hobbyist pornography has got women showing their kneecaps off to people. It's yeah, but I mean, well, the thing is, but this is the thing. Even if that was true, even if that there was some truth to that, again, it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't make it any less anyone else's business. Did I see what? Yes, one of the one of the biggest one of the biggest sort of things one of the things that I'm gutted I will never know is the fact that Bin Laden had a copy of loose change on his computer, and I'm like, please, before you shoot him in the head, can you give him 10 minutes? I want to let him record his review. I want to know. I need I will never know. Yeah, I will never get to know what Osama bin Laden thought thought of loose change, and that. And who would no, if you could have recorded that on a video and uploaded it, fucking hell, that would have gone. He had loads of porn. Of course he fucking did. Yeah. To be fair, I mean, when you're Osama bin Laden, is there anything he could have had on his hard drive that would have reflected badly on him? I mean, I'd like to think that Saddam Hussein would have found it funny. Big Wet 8. Well, I mean, Big Wet 8 is a classic. It answers all of the questions that you had. That I had. You know, that I had left over from Big Wet 7. Has anyone ever? That's one of the things about pornography. I've never seen part one. I've never seen what the first. It's always Wet Nuns 74, or or Fisting Headmistress 12. It's never. I've never seen number one. Why does every porn franchise have a million fucking? I've never. You never meet porn. You never meet porn enthusiasts who are like, "Oh God, it's just sequels these days." That's all you get is they just keep no new ideas. Well, the first ever, what is technically or officially, regarded as the first ever uh, porno was called "What the Butler Saw." That must have been I'm sure. I mean, when porn started, it must have just had really bland titles, like consenting adults indulge in coitus, 17 or whatever. Yeah. I remember seeing this thing on TV. It was about like the original condoms were actually like were actually sort of they were reusable. Like you could wash them. Can you imagine that hanging out on the fucking line? Grotesque, isn't it? I remember Femidoms. Yeah, I'm old enough to remember them. They didn't last long. The reason they didn't last long is because of the fragility of the male ego. Because a guy would go back to a woman's place and she'd pull a fucking Femidom out and he'd go, "I can't satisfy you." She's small, large, and not on a windy day. Yeah, it's a good. That makes perfect sense. Yeah. I've just uploaded the Thunderfoot compilation on Odyssey. Anyway. Oh, that's the. Night, John. That's the Odyssey. Uh, condoms in your hallway last week. Well, at least they used them. Think of all the times that you haven't seen. You haven't seen 2 used condoms. That just means they've jizzed anywhere. How fucking gross is that? Nothing, mate. That's mostly my dad's fucking fishing bait. The worst human beings imaginable. I have trouble believing that's true. Are you familiar with zoo sadists? Guy from 40 Towers or Grumpy Old Men or something. You live in Tottenham. Ah, so they're Jews. I get you. Oh, you know for a fact they're not Jews, or you just assume, or are you just assuming that? No, because I think that to assume either way without knowing, that's pretty anti-Semitic, you know. I like Birmingham. You're pretty sure. Ah, here we go. See, backtracking already. See, you don't know. They're all just very violent. Are you saying Jews can't be violent? Because I think that's a bit, you know, it's a bit of a generalisation. Yeah. But you're all learning very. I think you're all learning. You know, we're all learning a lot about you tonight. You know. Stay safe. No. I won't be doing that. I know. You think they? Oh, I see. So all Jews walk around in yarmulkes, do they? Yeah. All Jews look the same, didn't they? Yeah. They all dress. They all dress the same. They all have those little skull caps, just bits of a, you know. They all have the curly ears. They all have big noses. They're all diamond merchants. They all walk around going, you know. I mean, I don't know. I'm just disgusted with the depth and the, you know, the severe depth and your anti-Semitism and your hatred of Jews just knows no bounds, doesn't it? Yeah. Don't blame me. You know, I didn't bring. You know. I'm right. You know. No, I love Jews. Yeah, you love Jews. Do you know what? That's exactly what someone who hated them would say. That is exactly. Yeah, I've got black friends. I can't be racist. I've got a fucking I've got a Diane. I've got the best of the Temptations. Yeah. We should move down to Stamford Hill, right? You know, why is there less Jews there? Exactly. Yeah. Was the least Jewy area of London? Yeah. Way more. Oh, I see. You want to infiltrate them, do you? Yeah. There can't be more than there are in Tottenham. That's literally what Tottenham's famous for. You support Spurs and everything. Oh, I see. Yeah, you can rationalise it any way you want. Yeah. My dad was telling me once that when he was growing up, everybody, all of his mates thought he was Jewish because he supports Tottenham. He's got a big nose, and his granddad's middle name was Abraham. That was literally it. Yeah. Now, I mean, now supporting Tottenham, he supports Tottenham because that's where he was born. Yes, he has a big nose, but I mean, his granddad's middle name. I mean, you think about your middle name is it's a name you're given. It's not like it's not your. It's not like it's not an hereditary name. So he literally could have been called Abraham McIsraelstein. Like it's. Yeah, I mean, by that logic, like I say, all parrots are Jews because they've got big noses and they don't eat pork. There you go. Okay, guys, I'm going to end the stream now. My phone's about to die, and the charger is all the way over there. It's a good 4 or 5 feet away from me, and I can't be asked to get up and plug it in. So I'm going to end it. Thanks to those of you who stayed in there and tolerated the terrible audio. I will see you all soon. Again, if you're not following me on Patreon, do it. There's exclusive content over there now. I'm sorry, Poppy. You have to go back and watch it all again. Other than that, take care.